I feel like at this point, I'm preaching to the choir about what Trump and his administration and MAGA is doing to this country, but I think we have to talk about how ridiculous things have gotten. As each and every passing day goes on, MAGA is beginning to show more and more how inhumane and cult-like they are to Trump and his administration. To give some context and background to what this video is gonna lay out, since September, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, has been bombing boats off of Venezuela, and we don't know why. Even though there's been no definitive proof of any of this, they haven't told us anything, they haven't shown us anything to show that these drug boats are coming to America. And even if they were, running drugs is not a death sentence. It's not one in America, and it definitely shouldn't be one internationally. Of course, MAGA is trying to spin this to make it look like, oh, Democrats want to save drug runners and drug traffickers. They don't care. We're trying to save America. Of course, this is utter bullshit. All we're trying to do is make sure that you guys are following the law. There is no way under the sun you can justify bombing random boats in the middle of the ocean just because you're assuming there's drugs on them. So even though this has been going on since September, the reason it is getting way more traction right now is because apparently Pete Hegseth has put out an order to basically double tap some survivors that they already shipwrecked. Allegedly, there were a couple survivors that managed to live after their boat was incapacitated by the bombings ordered from Pete Hegseth. He decided to still tell them to kill them afterwards. According to the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, which was updated in July of 2023, this is illegal and not a lawful act in war. In section 5.9 in the manual, it says, persons placed hors de combat include the following categories of persons provided they abstain from any hostile act and do not attempt to escape: persons in the power of an adverse party, persons not yet in custody who have surrendered, persons who have been rendered unconscious or otherwise incapacitated by wounds, sickness, or shipwreck, and persons parachuting from aircraft in distress. Hors de combat is a French phrase that means out of the battle. It is generally used as a term of art to mean persons who may not be made the object of attack because they are out of fighting and who therefore must be treated humanely. Pretty much at this point, these people that survive being shipwrecked, who are of no threat floating in water, should be treated humanely. But if you want to ask my opinion before we get into this, I think that they're trying to not have to answer for their indiscretions and unlawful acts, possibly murderous acts. They just want to kill these people so they can just say, we did America a favor, and not have to answer for their actions. But hopefully we find some real answers to this, because at best, this is a murder, and at worst, it is a war crime, both which are punishable by the law to a serious extent. But I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna let you guys hear out of these congressmen and these state representatives and these candidates going up for election, let you hear out of their own mouths how they feel about people that run drugs, which could be people in America, and how they feel about people that just simply come from other countries. As you see these clips, I will come in and out and provide context where needed, but a lot of this shit is gonna speak for itself.
So I really do kind of not only want to see them killed in the water, whether they're on the boat or in the water, but I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little. Like, I'm really having a difficult time ginning up sympathy for these guys who 10 seconds earlier almost got taken out by the initial bomb, but because they managed to get ejected, a little too soon, had to be taken out in the water. I realize legally it may make a difference, but truly, Mark, this is a tough case to really gin up the sympathies of the American people.
Yeah. I can't recall any time in my history doing counterterrorism operations where we strike a group, whether that's a building or a boat or a vehicle, and then we were like, oh, well, they're survivors. Do we have to go? We can't kill them. Of course we kill them.
Republican South Carolina Congresswoman, member of the House Armed Services Committee, Nancy Mace, joins me. Nice to see you, Congresswoman. And first, can you confirm that there were actually 2 strikes on this single boat?
From media reports, yes, we've heard that there were 2 strikes on this boat. What was astounding to me, Greta, and thank you for having me on today, is that we have people in the press, on social media, even elected members of Congress, who are defending drug narco terrorists who are bringing lethal drugs, over 500 million pounds of drugs into this country, and defending their behavior when the president has designated these people as narco terrorists. They need to be taken out so these drugs stop coming into the United States of America.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I do not want narco-terrorists bringing drugs into this country. Where I have pause is this. I do know, for instance, that Hamas uses human shields, and I do know that that these narco-terrorists are just as ugly and dirty as Hamas. And what concerns me is if there were two that were left alive. Do we know they were narco-terrorists? Could they be human shields? Could they be Venezuelan fishermen? We don't know, and it's sort of the job of Congress to be oversight, to answer those questions for us. I mean, in all likelihood, probably you're right, but that's not the way we proceed with how we investigate when our military has taken action that has resulted in loss of life.
Certainly there are oversight provisions and oversight investigations both in the Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, which is the duly responsible role of Congress on both sides of the aisle. But I do not believe that Secretary Hegseth of the Department of War would authorize this type of action if they were not narco terrorists. And so I support Secretary Hegseth. I support President Trump in their efforts to derail drug terrorism coming into the United States. I'm 100% on board with that.
I'm confident that the admiral thought he was carrying out his mission,
but why is
which
it
is
questionable? Why is it questionable to order a strike to kill individuals who are survivors?
These are terrorists. Okay, these are absolute terrorists.
But they're wounded.
I didn't see this kind of scrutiny when the Obama administration was launching drone strikes against terrorist organizations in the Middle East. I mean, that happened all the time. Okay, and so I didn't see this kind of scrutiny about the survivors, et cetera. These are terrorists. They're bringing poison into the United States. They have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And we need to understand that. Killed far more Americans than Al-Qaeda or
so let me
Osama
just be
bin
precise
Laden
with you,
ever did.
Congressman.
And so I have no problem with the kinetic strikes that are happening in the Caribbean, killing and destroying the drugs that are killing American citizens and have been killing American citizens for years.
Are we at war in the Caribbean? And if so, should the president declare war and/or should Congress approve an authorization?
I think the president is acting under his authority as commander-in-chief in a way that's consistent with what past administrations have done. And clearly, a war has been waged by these drug cartels against the United States, and it has come at a great cost to American citizens. We've lost tens of thousands of lives in just the past year to these drug cartels. So I think the president's operating within his authorities.
Thank you. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Excuse me. Regarding Venezuela, the president said yesterday that Secretary Hegseth had denied that second strike, the reported second strike on an alleged drug boat on September 2nd, the secretary said to the president that didn't happen. But to clarify, I just wanted you to clear this up. In his social media post, Secretary Hegseth didn't go into details about that strike. He just said U.S. operations in the area were lawful, and he said that the story and media reports were fabricated. So to be clear, does the administration deny that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Gabe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over.
Majority of fentanyl comes from Mexico, which comes from China, probably close to 0% of fentanyl in this country comes from Venezuela.
Texas, I will officially file to become your next congresswoman. So the choice is yours. Vote for me so we can kick every dirty Muslim out of Texas, save your daughters from getting raped by Mohammed, and protect our soldiers from getting murdered in broad daylight. Let me be very clear. We will make Texas the worst place for groomers, terrorist Muslims, pedophiles, and illegals to live in, so help me God. For me, this is just an election. But for you and your daughter, this is your life. Because Texas has only gotten more Muslim under these weak Republicans. New York City already fell to Islam. So did Michigan and Minnesota. And you're next in line. If Texas falls to Islam, it's simply because you didn't vote correctly. God bless you all.
Yeah, I know that last one was probably a lot to take in, but that's why I saved it for last, and we can continue on with this video. So first, let's address this narco-terrorist word that they keep throwing around. The problem with MAGA is they think that they can say whatever and do whatever and keep saying it, and then somehow it'll automatically become true and okay to do. Well, do we really want to live in this world? MAGA just seems to forget that there will be life after Trump, and as much as they think it's so cool and base to just let him do and say whatever he wants, and you guys will just apologize for him and just let him do it, you wouldn't be happy once the shoe was on the other foot. Just saying that these are narco-terrorists is not enough. It needs to be proven, and if we're gonna claim that these are narco-terrorists at war with America, Congress has to approve and declare us to be in a war with narco-terrorists from Venezuela. Since that hasn't happened, you cannot just say these are narco-terrorists, therefore it is okay to kill them in the middle of the Caribbean. If you don't believe me, listen to Congressman Rand Paul, who is also a Republican, who kind of breaks this down in very simple terms as to how this is pretty unlawful what they're doing.
You know, when you kill someone, you should know, if you're not at war, not in a declared war, you really need to know someone's name, at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime. And for decades, if not centuries, when you stop people at sea in international waters or in your own waters, you announce that you're going to board the ship and you're looking for contraband, smuggling, or drugs. The other thing about these speedboats is they're 2,000 miles away from us. If they have drugs, they're probably peddling drugs to one of the islands of Trinidad or Tobago off of Venezuela. The idea that they're coming here is like, it's a huge assumption.
Exactly. We have not been declared at war with anybody from Venezuela. Therefore, again, this is either a murder, or if we are at war, Trump, this is a war crime. The next thing that's funny about all of this, meanwhile, while Pete Hegseth and Trump want to maintain this demeanor of America being some badasses and don't come around here or else we'll kill you, they don't want to take responsibility for something they claim is lawful. Trump is trying to pass the buck to Hegseth, and Hegseth is trying to pass the buck to the admiral that called for these strikes, whether they were lawful or not. And the reason he's doing that is because he knows that this shit looks bad, but he's going to say he supports the decision of the admiral that reports to Hegseth. That's his version of taking responsibility. But we all know it really isn't. You're trying to say you support him for doing something, but if something was to go wrong, the actual responsibility falls on him because he made that call in order to strike these boats and double tap these boats.
Watch that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back. And the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
Those choice of words weren't by mistake. Trump is saying, yes, I trust Hegseth. Hegseth is saying, yes, I trust Admiral Bradley. So Admiral Bradley is the one that's going to probably have to take the fall if any of these things come out to be illegal. Now, let's address this comparison a lot of people on the right have been making to past presidents making decisions with drone strikes and bombings in the past. And the main one I keep seeing getting brought up is Obama's attack on Anwar al-Awlaki back in 2011. In 2011, Obama sent out a strike in Yemen that targeted a specific target, Anwar al-Awlaki, ended up killing him. And the problem with this strike that people have is that this was a U.S. citizen and it wasn't in a necessarily battlefield setting. But the reason that these strikes are different is because, one, we were actively in a declared war with Al-Qaeda. Two, Obama specifically got all of the legal counsel necessary before ordering the strike. And three, this American citizen was found to be a leader in Al-Qaeda. The controversy mostly comes into play is because it wasn't in an active battlefield setting and that it was an American citizen, and it just kind of draws a blurry line with, are we just gonna kill people randomly that's not in the middle of a war? I guess somewhat similar to this, but again, this was a declared war at the time. So at the end of the day, it's not to say that you can't have a problem with what Obama did, but you can't act like these two things are similar. This was a specific target that was a leader in a terrorist group, a designated, congressionally declared terrorist group we were actively at war with. And yes, they were a U.S. citizen, but clearly they were not for the U.S. So the dishonesty to try to compare these two bombings and acts of war and put them in the same bag is just dishonest on its face. So the Trump administration at this point is hell-bent on proving their strength and power over other nations and exerting it in every which way they find feasible. But all of that is negated at the moment you find out that Trump has just last week pardoned the former president of Honduras, Juan Hernandez. In 2019, this former president was found guilty on 3 counts of drug trafficking and a weapons conspiracy. He was pretty much the kingpin of drug trafficking in Honduras. He was found to be moving 400 tons of cocaine to America, and Trump just pardoned him. How are we so concerned about poisoning Americans and killing us by the thousands a day over drugs? I guess fentanyl is the only one that matters now in 2025. And you set that stage right next to the one where you pardoned the fucking El Chapo of today. Funny enough, he's been also found to take a $1 million bribe from El Chapo. And Trump expects the American population to take him serious about trying to stop drugs from coming to our country. In a nutshell, man, I mean, after that, I think it would be safe to end the video. But if we're gonna look at this thing as a whole, we have not declared war on Venezuela. If we were at war with Venezuela, those attacks on those boats were not justified no matter how you slice it. It's not even proven that they were coming to America when you take into account that they're 2,000 miles away on a small speedboat, and it's pretty much not possible for them to make it all the way to America on that size boat with as much gas as it can hold. And if they were, the moment you blew up their ship and there were survivors shipwrecked, you are not legally allowed to kill those people. Take them in, question them, find out what's going on to keep the drugs from coming to America if they were in fact coming to America. So if you did not commit a war crime, you committed murder. And there's obviously more at play at this point when you're pardoning a man that got 45 years for drug trafficking just because it was a Biden conspiracy. So Trump just pretty much thinks that if Biden did anything during his term, all of it is bad and it all needs to be reversed. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump pardoned somebody that Biden's administration put to jail for maybe having a conspiracy to off Trump or something. He'll just say it's a Democratic hoax. But yes, I felt like it was really vital that I made this video because as much as I clearly don't like MAGA, this is probably a new threshold that I've hit with these people. This level of like faux patriotism they're trying to display is just so transparent that it's fake. I don't even think I have to explain it to you guys. You can be pro-America with not thinking that anybody that may cause harm to Americans needs to die on the spot. This trajectory we're going into isolationism will only further hurt this country that you claim to care about so much. We didn't rise to be as great as a country as we are by isolating ourselves, creating enemies across the whole world, killing people that just exist in other parts, telling people they can't come here because they have different beliefs or look different than us or think different than us. If you think that it's okay to kill people that traffic drugs from other countries here, then by your own logic, you think it's okay to kill people in this country that sell and traffic drugs here. Because yeah, if you really care about drugs, we all know that the biggest importer of drugs to America is Americans. So is your next step to say, let's just kill them all too? Because they're really the problem of who's poisoning us as Americans. Yes, we want to cut that off at the head, but you don't kill them without figuring out what the issue is. Killing those people would just, usually those people are expendable anyway to drug runners. So if you kill them, you're not fixing the problem. All they're gonna do is find other people to traffic those drugs as well. But you guys don't really care about that. You care about this image of patriotism and trying to look strong, when honestly all you're doing is weakening the core of what America is supposed to be.